Good evening and salutations, my GH fans. Um, so here's the thing. As some people may know, they didn't actually show General Hospital at 3 o'clock like they normally do on Channel 7. I was able to find a copy on YouTube, but when I sit there and say this was a rough copy, like jacked, it was exactly that, jacked. Up until the point where I did watch it, but there was certain parts that I missed. I couldn't really hear it. Like the volume wasn't really too good. And 1 second. And I didn't know if it was the whole thing. And I felt like, if I do like a partial review and then they play the whole episode today, then it's like, all right, so I'm just gonna do two. Like I didn't want to sit there and half-ass it. That's just not what I ever plan on doing. I'm not just gonna just put out something just to put out something. So, and just like that, they showed the full episode of yesterday's episode. Awesome. So, here's the thing, and I kind of got to start with this scene because this scene was pointless, and something that I noticed about GH, every now and then they would just throw in a character, throw in a scene that makes little to no sense. So let's talk about Amy Driscoll. She came in there, she practically had eye sex with Brando, and then she left. There was no point of her scene, of her actually being on this episode at all. Listen, I am very happy and ecstatic and just, I just think it was an awesome job of the actress as far as like losing weight and everything like that. And I mean, she looks stunning. But with that being said, there was really no point of actually showing her. She's not the only person. There's another somewhat heavy-set African American girl. I don't know what her name is. She's another nurse, and every once in a while, they'll just put her in a scene just to put her in a scene. And I'm just like, why don't you give this girl some backstory? Give her something, I mean, hell, they gave Amy a backstory. I mean, it's kind of totally pointless now because I guess her brother Chad, we don't really see him anymore. My point is that I don't understand why sometimes they bring in Amy. Like before with what's her name? Brooklyn. They brung her in so that way she can sing and, for that whole scene to play out. And that's why they brung her there. So I was like, okay, cool. That makes sense. This whole scene with her and Brando just made no sense whatsoever. And yeah. It's almost like it was, I would sit there and say it was pointless talking about it, except for the fact that it was just a pointless scene in general. So yeah, that happened. I think it was less than 2 minutes, and we were all worse off for it. Listen, I get it. You gotta sit there and show eye candy. You gotta sit there and find some sort of way to show these guys shirtless. Here's the thing. There could have been millions of different ways they could have shown that. Throwing Amy in there was just pointless, but whatever. So, well, let's start with Sasha. Let's start with Sasha because I don't understand this episode to some extent. So, let me get this straight. So, Cyrus is on the phone, and he is talking to someone about the whereabouts of his mother, and he's just not happy, and this is after Cyrus starts talking to Sam. Like, where's my mother at? Well, y'all two are together, so I figure you would know. And Sam was like, yo, first of all, take a step back. Just let's just back up just a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, I did kind of laugh a little bit. And she was like, yo, listen, if you want to know what's going on with Jason, ask him your damn self. Um, and Cyrus starts talking, yada yada yada, and then that's when Olivia comes in, pulls her over. So at this point, Cyrus is just sitting there, and this is where the scene comes in, and I'm like, this was somewhat pointless. So let me explain this. To some extent. So I almost forgot her name for a second. Sasha walks up to Cyrus. She's looking and she sees what's going on with Cyrus and she hears the news and she walks over and she's all like, "Oh, it looks like you're not doing too well. What's going on with you? Poor you, boo, boo, boo." And she just starts going at him, and I'm like, why? Like, why are you starting with him for? I mean, again, and I've talked about this before, and I hate sounding like a broken record, but once again, she brings up the fact that, well, you gave me drugs, and it gave me a heart attack, and the stuff didn't just come out of nowhere, and yada yada yada, and I'm just like, so, like, okay, he gave you drugs, did he like force it up your nose? Like, what? I don't understand. Like, you made that choice, and the whole time. She starts talking about the drugs and stuff like that. I was like, boo, I'm sorry, but this is on you. Okay? This is on you. Yeah, he saw that you were in a vulnerable place, and he did prey on that. But, again, choices. The 3 C's. Had to remember the 3 C's for a minute. Choice, chance, consequences. That's all I'm going to say about that. So at some point, Cyrus is like, but what about my mother? And, you're kicking me while I'm down. She's a frail old woman and yada, yada, yada. And, she's all like, he's all like, well, Jason has her and I don't know what he's going to do with her. And, Sasha's like, yo, listen, from what I understand, Jason's not the type of person that would stoop, to that level of just picking on, helpless, weak, old women, Unlike you, which you seem you have no problem going out to other people's families, their children, bombing restaurants, killing God knows how many people, or hurting people, and you have no problem with that. So, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, when she said what she said, I was like, you know what? Listen, I give her credit because literally, everything she said was on point and it made total sense. And I think my only issue with that whole scene was, why the hell you starting with him for? Yeah, he definitely deserved everything that Sasha was saying. Not about the drugs, but just about don't be a hypocrite because you hurt a bunch of people. And at some point, Cyrus was like, listen, we do bad things sometimes for the greater good of, like I'm not gonna lie, it was some sort of BS that he was trying to say to justify his actions, and he basically was like, people always see me as this monster and stuff like that, and that's when Sasha was like, so why don't you change that? Why don't you change that? You have a problem with the way that people perceive, your perception. Change it. And right then and there, before he was able to say anything, Brando walked in. And, Brando was like, what's going on with your lip or whatever. And, this is when Brando was like, well, I got involved with the wrong girl and I deserved it. And I was like, no, Brando, you really didn't deserve that. You didn't deserve that fat lip that you had. You didn't deserve the fact that Molly lied to you and then told you the next day, oh, well, we're nothing, it meant nothing, treat him like trash, and then sat there and told him to lie for her. So, no, Brando, he didn't deserve that. Anyway, Cyrus talks to Brando about, business and about finding his mother. And, he's like, yo, listen, why don't you, your family, or you pretend to be family, why don't you talk to him and see what you can get out? Because if you don't, well, lawyer, feds, you know what I'm saying? You remember you helping out that kid getting into this country illegally? Do I really have to spell it out for you? No? Okay, cool. So be creative. At some point, I don't remember who leaves. Brando, no, not Brando leaves. Cyrus leaves, and this is when, cause no, okay, so this is when I had to sit there and remember his name for a second. Brando and Sasha starts talking, and Brando's like, "Yo, what are you doing? Why are you sitting there provoking him?" And Sasha's like, "Oh, well, I thought this was a good teachable moment." No, no, I'm not gonna lie. Listen, this scene was great. What you told him, but this scene seemed kind of pointless. Like, so your whole purpose of being on this episode was to sit there and poke the bear? Okay, cool. Um, but at some point, Sasha's like, I don't like seeing you pretty much under Cyrus's thumb. Being under his control. Like whatever that talk was serious, and it didn't seem good. And that's when Brando kind of agreed. He was like, "Yeah, you know what? You're right about that." What else? So Olivia talks to Sam, and pretty much at first they talk about Alexis, but then they also talk about the fact that Olivia's like, "Yo, I don't know about this whole DWI thing. Like this whole thing is just not adding up. Like we should talk to your mother." So Alexis opens up this, I guess, book or whatever that I don't know why I'm forgetting names. I was gonna sit there and say Olivia. No, Ava. Wow. I was close. It was her other sister, half sister, I guess. I don't know, but something that shit. I wasn't drinking. I promise. Ava. Ava gave her some book or whatever, and Alexis is sitting there looking through it, and it's just painful memories of Julian, and she starts getting emotional. At some point, she hears the door, and it's Sam and Olivia. And at first, she doesn't even want to be bothered. She's like, "Yo, listen. One day you're upset with me. You don't want to see me. You don't even want to look at me. The next day you're concerned. Like what's going on?" So Olivia and Sam was like, "Listen, we want to talk to you. Plus, it's freezing outside. So could we come in?" So they come in and they start talking to Alexis about the DWI and stuff like that. And at some point, somebody says something about coffee, and I think it was Olivia that went to go look for the coffee. I don't remember if it was Olivia or Sam, which is sad because I watched this twice. Okay, well I skimmed it the second time, but my point is, somebody looked at the coffee and they compared notes. So he basically was like, "Well, how did Tracy miss that? Like, how did she miss the coffee?" And this is when Sam is like, "You know what? Listen, we gotta sit there and get to the bottom of this. Either Tracy is telling the truth or she is flat out lying, and we have a way. Apparently she has a way of trying to figure it out. So I guess we'll wait and see." Um, Laura and Curtis. So Laura pretty much kind of fills Curtis in on everything as far as Cyrus and, well, she didn't say Cyrus and Martin, but basically I'm assuming that she said Martin was also a half brother, and talks about that, talks about Florence and how she feels guilty about Florence's disappearance and Jason having her, and if it wasn't for her telling Carly, then Carly wouldn't told Jason. But Curtis like, "Listen, you know whatever Carly did after you left was on Carly, so don't feel bad about that." He also said he'll sit there and take a look, but I don't really remember where that went. But at some point they talk about one second. They talk about Curtis and Jordan. Laura asked something about the disappearance of Sonny, because he talked about Sonny, and this when she was all like, Sonny's dead or Sonny's gone. I was like, ugh, okay, I guess we're still doing this. I don't know. I guess it just kind of bothers me, and I know they do this in a lot of soap operas when there's no body, but yet people just assume that they're dead. And so I'm not gonna lie, I was getting kind of annoyed. But at some point, the conversation shift to Jordan. I guess because there was one too many side steps that Curtis was taking every time Jordan's name was presented. And this is when Curtis is like, listen, I'm tired of all the lies and all the, half truths and what is okay for me to know and what's not okay for me to know. And pretty much he's like, yo, I'm kind of just sick of it. And at some point, you know, Laura's like, would you even be willing to try like marriage counseling? Because at first she was like, why don't you just talk to her? I guess talking can only do so much. And, it's not a matter of love, but it's a matter of trust. And at this point, he feels like his trust is just broken. And Laura's like, why don't you do marriage counseling? Curtis is like, at this point, he was like, I don't even know. And this is when Laura was like, do you even, do you see a future with your wife? Like, do you want your marriage to work? Like, do you want to fight for your marriage pretty much? Because that was pretty much the impression that I was getting, was that he was just like, I mean, I love her, but I just don't know. And I felt like, I'm not going to lie, just to cut this short, I felt like he pretty much just given up. He's just given up on his marriage. I mean, I feel like the only reason why he's holding on is to probably maybe obligation. Maybe feels sorry a little bit for Jordan, a little bit, but like, it's done. I feel like it's just done on his end. And here's the thing, I know that I see a lot of fans on like these different soap opera clips or whatever of like, him, them pushing him and Portia together, and oh, that's gonna be the new thing, and I get that, but I don't know. I mean, I've never been one for shipping, but I just feel like this is the direction that they're going, and I'm just wondering. I don't know if this is going too fast or too slow. I mean, I partly feel like, I get that she lied. Maybe you should sit there and try counseling, try something before you're just like, all right, I'm done. You guys known each other for a while. I think it's worth putting in the extra effort to fight for your marriage, but whatever. What else? So, Jason and Brick are talking, and, of course, they're once again talking about how Sonny's dead, and, we gotta do this for Sonny. But pretty much, Brick informs Jason that the 5 families, or somebody in the 5 families, are moving in on his territory. He has an address, they go there, and they see the people that's moving on their territory, dead. All of them. And, Brick is like, yo, is this one of your guys? And, Jason's like, yo, that's not how we move. So they go back to their cafe or, empty restaurant pretty much. And at some point, I think, Jason's like, whoever this person that took out this family did us a favor. But the question is why? And he said that he had his suspicions of who it might be, but he's going to sit there and kind of like make sure. So they're talking business from my shop, and at some point, Cyrus knocks on the door, and he's like, all right, I want to talk. I want to drink. Let's do some more business. So I guess we're going to wait and see what Cyrus has planned. I mean, is he going to pull a gun again? Well, actually, to tell you the truth, I don't think he'll be able to, because, I got your mommy, so I guess we'll just wait and see about that. Now, I think the last thing I'm going to sit there and talk about, because I think that's literally it, is Sonny and the nurse. Not going to lie, it didn't really go anywhere. The only thing that really happened was that the nurse was like, whoever you are, you have expensive taste. Your memory will come back to you. Now, she did say something that was kind of interesting. And I don't know if this relates to the story. She's like, somebody came out their coma, 20 years. They've been in a coma for like 20 years and they came out. Recently or whatever. And I don't know if this is tied into the story or if this is just something to give Sonny hope. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Other than that, the only thing that I can really think that happened was, the woman was like, well, I mean, the nurse was like, you have a wife because of your wedding ring. And, when he looked at the band of his watch, it said Mike's name on it. So apparently his new name is Mike because reasons. And I think that's actually about it. I'm still thinking about Amy in that pointless scene. I feel like the only time that they'll give Amy like a legit story is when they don't have an option. Like when Kristen Storm was out and you had Nathan just there and you had to give him something to do. So, that's when they came up with the whole Manlander story, which despite what a lot of people say how much they didn't like it, I actually really love that story. Amy and her brother, and the reason why she was doing it was for money and stuff. So I actually really like that, and I'm not gonna lie, here's the thing that was just really weird. One minute she is this annoying woman, okay, this annoying busybody gossip woman. Next minute they give her a story and they actually give her a personality that's not ear bleeding, and now they just give her pointless scenes. I mean, listen, they're paying this actress, so I think that's great. But I feel like to the fans, if any fans actually like Amy, um, give her a damn storyline. Like, give her something to do. Don't just waste her. This is a problem that a lot of soap operas tend to have sometimes. That they waste these characters sometimes, and they don't give them nothing to do. They just become, I don't know. Let's sit there and say Maxie. So you're just gonna be Maxie's husband. You're just gonna be Lulu's husband. Just give these people something to do other than them just being there for somebody else's sake. Now I know the people that watch this show, and I'm sorry for ranting, but it does kind of make my point a little bit. If anyone who watches Days of Our Lives, the guy named Greg, or I can't remember his name because his character was so boring. The woman, the man that Nicole was married to, guy was boring. I don't even remember his name. But the point is, all he pretty much did was become Nicole's wife. I mean, Nicole's husband. That was it. Like, they didn't really give him too much of anything else to do. If he wasn't playing referee, like, between Nicole and Sammy, they didn't really give him anything to do. So, yeah, the dude left. And I just really hope that GH just give these people something to do. Or, like, give them something to do. That's really what I'm going to sit there and say about that. And with that being said, I'm going to go. I know this review came out late, like a day late. But as a fan, personally, I just couldn't sit there and just watch whatever that jacked up version was that I saw on YouTube. And since they didn't have a better copy, and I couldn't find it on Hulu or on demand, I was like, you know what? Let's just wait until tomorrow, because most likely they are going to just show it. Either the right way or just a new episode. With that being said, I'm gonna go. Thank you so much for watching. This is crazy. I mean, crazy in a good way. Like, the amount of people that are subscribed to the channels. I know some of them are, some people are subscribed to the channel to watch the GH reviews, and I cannot thank you enough. This is fun, and I mean, yeah, I guess, from my perspective, doing the work, kind of making sure I got all my notes, kind of making sure I didn't forget anything. Yeah, it takes a certain amount of work. But when I'm on here and I'm talking, it doesn't feel like work. It just feels like I'm just talking about a show that I really enjoy. And it's fun to me. And, they always sit there and say your dream job is a job that you don't feel that is work. And if I can do this and get paid, I mean, it'll just make my day. So thank you everyone who is watching. Every now and then I will sit there and say, if you can share the video, please do so. I'm not going to be like, if you like the video, because if you didn't like it, then you just didn't like it. And if you didn't like it, then that just means I have to do better. But if you can share, that definitely does help. And with that being said, I'm going to go. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Did you like this episode? Did you not like this episode? I'm not gonna lie, I kind of felt like Sonny a little bit was kind of wasted. Nothing really happened with his character, but that's just my thoughts.